Star Wars the Acolyte is an upcoming series from Disney Lucasfilm, though I'm not sure if it is upcoming at this point after the rumours from last month that it had been cancelled before it ever came out, and it wouldn't even surprise me at this point. Disney Lucasfilm have essentially killed any interest I had in a franchise that I used to love. I still haven't bothered to watch The Rise of Skywalker yet. That movie released in 2019 and I could have watched it at any point since. I just don't want to. All of the articles I'm seeing about The Acolyte are giving it the full Rings of Power treatment, like this one, talking about how new Star Wars series to bring desperately needed queerness to a galaxy far, far away. And is that something that Star Wars desperately needs? I think at this point it desperately needs a life support machine, because yes, it genuinely does appear they've cast trans YouTuber PhilosophyTube in a Star Wars series. Other coverage tells us how their series is going to give us the first ever live action Asian Jedi, and I can barely contain my disappointment that we'll have to wait longer before we get our first trans Sith of colour. All of the coverage seems to be this. The only thing the show seems to want to talk about is the representation, nothing about the plot or the story until today, when the showrunner talked about the difficulty of making a Star Wars story without a war in it. Who is this made for exactly? This is an idea that comes right from the Lucasfilm whiteboard again, the idea that Star Wars should not be pro-war, and it's a very childish and simplistic view of the world. It's an easy thing to say you're anti-war, but sometimes war is not immoral. Sometimes it may be the only moral choice. It depends on the greater context. Who is this made for exactly? Because if a movie has a male lead, we're told by the media that this is a problem because the rationale is that people want to see themselves represented, that in order to get the female audience, you have to have a female protagonist. Because we're told that women can't identify with a male lead in a film, and the lead needs to be female to bring in a female audience. But simultaneously, if a movie has a female lead and men don't show up, like for Captain Marvel, we're then told the men are sexist. Do you see the problem with this? It's such a blatant double standard. The arguments could be used just as easily the other way around, but they never are. We're never told that the original Star Wars having more of a male than female audience demonstrates that women are sexist for not wanting to watch a film with a male lead. But in terms of representation, everything has to look like current day LA. High fantasy has to be representative of current day LA. Sci-fi set in another galaxy has to be representative of current day LA. From the Netflix series Vikings, Norway 1,000 years ago has to be representative of current day LA. The British royal family in the Tudor period has to be representative of current day LA. You can't take a story intended to appeal to men and make it appeal to women by just reversing the genders. Because the more I look into it, the more I research, the more I realise that even if Hollywood may seem to think it, women aren't a thing that needs to be fixed. You aren't going to fix women or make them happy by trying to turn them into men. Femininity is not a thing that needs to be fixed or erased. Women are not broken men. Women are not an inversion of men either, but are instead their own distinct and weird thing. Women are almost exactly the same as men in some regards, but in other ways wildly different. The female hero's journey differs greatly from the male one. The female experience is informed in some ways by biology and evolution. The sorts of stories and fantasies that women write for themselves and their own consumption are different in ways that mean if you try to serve up a story with a woman undertaking what is structurally a male hero's journey, you're probably going to end up pleasing nobody. But is this claim that people need or want to see themselves represented true? Well, I looked at a breakdown on IMDb of the highest rated movies that also had a breakdown of how male and female users had rated them individually, and what I found maybe goes against some common wisdom, often repeated claims and stereotypes, because from this list there's not a giant gender divide between the films that men consider to be good and the films women consider to be good. The average ratings are not even that far apart. I think what this list shows is that there's no such thing as a film that appeals to women, because women are not a monolith. Different films are going to appeal to women of different ages. There are themes and features that appeal to many women, but not all. Jason Momoa with his shirt off got a lot of women to watch Aquaman, but presumably loses much of its appeal for lesbians. For example, Both men and women rated The Shawshank Redemption very highly, with men rating it just slightly higher than women. The average male vote was 9.29 out of 10, the female vote was 9.22. And this film is instructive because it counters 3 claims I read today: that women want to see more female directors, that women want to see more female leads, and that women want films that pass the Bechdel test. And I still can't believe anyone takes the Bechdel test seriously. It originated as a joke, and then the media just ran with it like it was serious. If you don't know it, to pass, the work or piece of film must feature at least 2 women who speak to each other about something other than a man. And a pass for that is considered good and empowering for women. So I could make a 90-minute movie where the first 30 seconds was 2 women talking about the weather and the remainder of the film was them being brutally tortured, and that would pass the Bechdel test and be more empowering for women than films that didn't, apparently. When polled, women may say that they want to see more female directors, but a male director certainly doesn't seem to stop women from enjoying a movie. The Shawshank Redemption is the highest rated film on IMDb. In The Shawshank Redemption, we have a film where the cast is overwhelmingly male. It's set in a men's prison. It doesn't pass the Bechdel test. It doesn't have a female lead. It barely has a woman in it. So when polled, women may say that more female directors would be nice. They may say that more female leads would be nice, that more interaction between female characters in films would be nice. But the highest rated movie on IMDb has none of those things. Because when it comes down to it, people watch a film to see a piece of art, a story, not a mass-produced product, not the result of surveys and checkboxes designed by a committee. You can't make original art with focus groups and committees. This list as a whole tells me that women don't need female directors in order to enjoy a movie. From the list on IMDb, on the 200 highest rated movies, the only female directors I could see are the Wachowski sisters with The Matrix. That's right, the only women that make the list are trans women, and they still identified as men when they made the movie in question that got them onto the list. And I'm not sure people need to see themselves represented at all in order to enjoy a film either. If that's true, explain the popularity of the film Finding Nemo. It's at number 62 on IMDb's list. This is a film that's entirely lacking in representation for both men and women because it has a cast entirely made up of fish. Despite lacking representation for either men or women, it proved popular with both, while I haven't seen a single case of a ticket for Finding Nemo being sold to a grouper. The film Aliens is also on the list at number 139, with its female lead. Aliens is more popular with male viewers than female ones. Explain that if people need to see themselves represented in the lead to enjoy a film. Why did men show up and love that film with its female lead? But there are certain trends noticeable from the list. If a film involves war or violence, the rating for men will tend to be higher than it is for women. Films like Saving Private Ryan, Full Metal Jacket, Goodfellas or Gladiator, and films in their genres are consistently rated higher by men than women. Also, science fiction as a genre tends to get rated higher by men than women. Women consistently rate certain movie genres higher than men do. Animated films like Monster Inc, musicals like Singing in the Rain or Grease, even more so if a film involves dancing, period dramas like Pride and Prejudice, love stories, and for some reason Harry Potter films. For reasons I'm yet to fully discern, women have a real affinity for the idea of witchcraft, and it also does seem to be more usual for people to rate a film higher if the lead is someone that matches their gender. So while a representative lead may not be necessary, it may help people in some way identify with a character. But from this list, what both women and men want to see and enjoy is good films. Good stories, and who's directing the film or the representation is nowhere near as important as having a good story to tell.
Maybe it's time we set a little trap for Crystal Cove's knob stealer.
I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
Well, Mike Hanlon, that I had to go, that I had to get cleaned up. Hell yeah.